Hi everyone and welcome to Left Off the Map for a pretty good day food-wise. As you can tell, lobster in front of me. We're going to make a lobster sambo or a lobster roll because coming up we're going to do a foodie tour of the east coast of Tasmania where I eat the best lobster roll I have ever had. It would be in the top 5 meals I've had in my entire life. It was phenomenal. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So I'm going to try and recreate it. I know I'm not going to get as close to it. I don't know what they did with this one, but it was just insane how good it was. There's a place called the Lobster Shack in Bicheno, but we'll get there. So my version, I think it's really important to get a brioche bun for your lobster roll. So we've got a couple of 3 brioche buns here. So I'm going to pop these on here. And because they're brioche, because they're buttery, they're going to go nice and golden. They'll take about 5 minutes, I reckon. So I'm going to make a sauce, I guess, that binds my lobster together. So I've got a little mixing bowl, some sour cream. You can use creme fraiche, you can use mayonnaise if you want to. Scoop that into a bowl. And then same sort of, I guess, a lot of the ingredients that you would use to make a tartare or a sauce grabiche. So I've got pickles. Some people use like the little mini gherkins. Pickles, these kind of pickles I think are much better. They've got a lot more flavour. I'm just going to dice these. And this can be pretty chunky. It's not really a sauce. It's going to get mixed through the lobster meat. So it doesn't matter if it's a little bit chunky. And then we've got capers. I'm going to add probably just a small amount of lemon juice and the zest of 1 lemon. So I want that lemon flavour, but not a huge amount of acidity. Capers, I'm not going to chop the capers up because they're baby capers. So you can see the ingredients that are going in there in the pickles and the capers. There's probably more of those ingredients than there is sour cream. Sour cream is just to bind everything together. So lemon zest first. And then the last thing, I guess the reason I liked the sandwich that I had at the Lobster Shack so much is it was simple. There was lots of lobster meat in it, which I think is you should get when you're getting a lobster roll. But it was really, really simple. It relied on the lobster meat being tasty. The sauce was exactly what you want it to be. It carried the flavour, so it was nice and fatty, had all of those normal ingredients that we know go well with lobster, so pickles and capers and lemon and that sort of thing. So a little bit of lemon juice, a nice pinch of salt. Stir all that together. So you can see you've got a good amount of all of those ingredients being bound together by the sour cream. Okay, that's done. Now the lobster itself, or the crayfish, I guess we call it here in Tasmania, Southern Rock lobster. I'll show you how to detach a tail from the head. So use a tea towel, grab hold of the top part, so the body part, with your tea towel, and then use the other part to grab hold of the tail. And what you're trying to do is twist it back and forth like that. And we'll eventually let go. Pull that body meat out like so. So next thing we have to do is deal with the tail. There are a couple of different ways of dealing with the tail. I'm going to use a pair of shears and then cut down one side, cut down the other side. And that'll mean you can open that bottom flap up like that. And then you can sort of just gently take the tail meat out from the shell once you've got access by peeling away that flap. All right, so now we've got our clean tail. that we can work with. So we'll sit that there. We'll get our lettuce ready. All right, so we've got our lettuce sort of peeled out, ready to go. Happy with that. So I'll leave the medallion piece, so this piece, and we can do something with that later. So we'll cut our lobster meat up into decent sized chunks. You don't want to shred it because you want to get those big chunky pieces of lobster. Right, I can turn that off. Toss that into my sauce. Mix all of that together, the sauce and the lobster. And probably, to be honest, like I said, you're going to get 4 decent sized rolls and 3 not so decent sized rolls. So we're probably going to end up with 2 because we've gone half. They're pretty good. So brioche buns are off. So we're going to big chunk of that lobster meat. You can see all those chunky pieces of lobster in there, or crayfish in there. Pop that on our bun. So you can see how we've made half a lobster tail, and quite a small lobster tail, go a long way. Then all you want to do is add your lettuce on top of that. Like I said, it's about the lobster meat. Pairing it with simple things is what this is all about. So nice, fresh, crunchy iceberg lettuce or cos lettuce. All right, so they are done. Lids on top. I'm sure it's not going to be as good as the one I had at the Lobster Shack, but the people there do it for a living. They do it over and over and over again, and they have perfected it. But I think this one is going to be pretty close. So to see what I'm comparing it to, let's head off and enjoy a little foodie tour of the east coast of Tasmania. First stop on our little adventure to the east coast is Kate's Berry Farms. We're going to have a cup of tea and some scones and try some of her famous jam here. Now I think this place, more than any other place on the east coast, takes real advantage of the situation where it is and the view. The view, I think, probably is the main reason that you would come here and sit for so long. The jam is fantastic, the chocolates are great, the scones are great, tea's great, but I could sit here all day, cup of tea after cup of tea, and just look at that view. And when this first opened, Kate built what was, I guess, a farm gate from scratch. It's now turned into more of a shop and a cafe, and people come here all year round to enjoy some of the variations in jam, from this one that we've got, which is called mingled berry, through to the basic strawberry jam. So I'm going to sit here, enjoy my cup of tea, try this mingled berry jam and see what it's like, and then we'll head off to the next stop on our East Coast tour, which is Springvale Vineyard. Only about 20-25 minute drive from here. So where we are at the moment is 5 minutes south of Swansea. So we're going to start heading up towards St Helens on the Great Eastern Drive. Second stop on our little East Coast adventure is a fantastic winery called Springvale. The vines you can see behind me have been planted in here since 1986, and they're 5th generation here. I've been lucky enough to be here quite a few times, and every time there seems to be a little evolution happening with the food. The latest is Mel's Kitchen. So you can come here now, have a great restaurant quality meal to go along with your wine. It makes it one of those great little stops on the East Coast where you're going to get more than what you thought you would get, more than you bargained for, which I think is a lot of what the East Coast is about. It is always surprising you. Every sort of corner you go around on the drive, you see something that takes your breath away. And I think that idea of seeing new things, of discovering new things, is very Tasmanian and very much what the East Coast is all about. So we'll keep heading off on our East Coast adventure along the Great Eastern Drive. We're going to head off after here and go to another vineyard and winery called Devil's Corner, where we'll get some seafood and some wood-fired pizzas. But for now, I'm going to sit back, enjoy a sparkling wine, and I've even got some of the strawberries that we got from Kate's Berry Farm. Now, I tried some in the car on the way here. They are the best strawberries I've eaten in my entire life, which will go wonderfully well with this sparkling wine from Springvale. The next stop on our little East Coast adventure is lunch, and we're stopping here at Devil's Corner, which incorporates the Fishers, which is a little fish and chip shop that's connected to Freycinet Marine Farm that we've been to before, and Tombolo. Tombolo was a cafe restaurant in Coles Bay, but have now moved their premises out to the Devil's Corner Co-op, is probably what you would call it. Now, I did say before that Kate's Berry Farm, I think, took the most advantage of the views here on the East Coast, but I probably have to rethink that now. With Devil's Corner, that amazing view of the hazards. You can climb the viewing tower and have a really good look, or just sit in front of the cellar door, and the view there is fantastic as well. So I'm going to go and get a pizza from Tombolo, enjoy a Pinot Noir, and just take in the beautiful scenery here on the East Coast while I have some lunch. For our final stop on our little East Coast tour today, we're at Bicheno. Now, really, I could say go anywhere in Bicheno, get yourself something nice to eat or a coffee to finish off your afternoon. Come down here, sit in front of this beach and just enjoy life. I'm going to go to a place called the Lobster Shack because I love crayfish and they do crayfish really well there, along with other seafood. And that's one thing we haven't really had today, is some good quality seafood. So that's how I'm going to end my East Coast trip. But for you, I would just make sure you end up here in Bicheno and then pick whatever you want. Well, that's the end of our East Coast trip for today, but next week you're going to get to see a lot more as we base the whole week on the East Coast. Just outside Swansea, a little place called Avalon Coastal Retreat. We'll do little day tours. I'll show you some of the great produce that you can get here on the East Coast, and we'll do a few recipes with some gorgeous backdrops. So as you can see, East Coast of Tasmania is not just a beautiful place to go to the beach, but there's also fantastic food. And the food revolution, I think, on the East Coast has started to take place over the last 5 years, and it's only going to get better and better and better. And that was the best in the top 5 things I've eaten in my life. All right, we're going to finish off with a vegetarian dish. First thing you've got to do is roast off some pumpkin. So whatever your favourite type of pumpkin is, that's what you want to roast. So take the skin, you could roast it with the skin on if you want to and then just take the flesh off. But this is just going to save us some time later, is taking the skin off now. Dice this up into reasonable sized chunks. And all we're trying to do is cook it and dry it out a bit. But you could steam this if you wanted to and then let it sit out with, steam it over some boiling water and then let it sit for a while with that steam coming off it, and that would dry it out enough. But I just think the flavour that you get from roasting your pumpkin is better. So I'm going to put that into a baking tray, a little bit of oil and salt, pop it in the oven for probably 25 to 30 minutes, take it out and let it cool enough that it's not going to destroy our ricotta when we mix it together. Pumpkin has been mashed. There's still a little bit of steam coming off there, but I don't mind sort of, as long as it's not piping hot, we're going to be okay. So first thing I want to do is pop in some lemon zest. I'm going to put some sage in there as well. And if you wanted to add other things, now is the time to do it. So if you wanted to add thyme, so sage and thyme, you could. What else would go well? Chili, some chili would go good, some spinach. If you wanted to put some spinach in there as well, you cut some spinach up and pop that in. But this is where you're sort of building your mix, so you're building your flavour in your cannelloni. All right, so zest in, salt, good pinch of salt. All right. My ricotta, my sage first. I said I was going to add the sage and I didn't do it. It's my sage. Now, it doesn't need to be super fine. A good amount of sage. Mix that in. Now you can start to smell sort of the flavours that you're going to be getting. Once that sage hits the pumpkin and the slightly warm pumpkin, you start to get a real idea of this dish. Okay, ricotta. And you want about 1-to-1 ricotta to pumpkin. So we'll pop our ricotta in. So that is our sage pumpkin ricotta mix. This is where you take your opportunity to taste it. So you want to taste a little bit. Make sure you've got everything right. A little more salt. And I am going to add some lemon juice. You've got that flavour of lemon, but just wanted a little bit of acidity in that mixture. Apart from that, it's really nice. The sage is beautiful in there. It's really sort of fragrant, light. Okay. Very, very, very important. Just makes life a lot easier with a piping bag. I tried thinking the other day of how on earth could you do this without a piping bag? I don't think you could. So you're going to need to have a piping bag. And this mixture is actually quite versatile. You can use it for other things other than ricotta. You could fill, other than ricotta, other than cannelloni, is what I mean. You could fill some tortellini with it if you wanted to. It would be good just as a sauce to go with pasta on its own as a chunky sauce. All right, so we've got our mixture done. Sit that there. Get cleaned up a little bit, and then we'll start to put our cannelloni together. So I'm going to cook them in this little tray. So this is what they look like. Just little tubes of pasta, basically. We're going to pipe the mixture in there. The moisture that's in the mixture and the moisture that's in the sauce that we're going to put on top is going to soak into that cannelloni, and that's how we end up with cooked cannelloni. They were about half an hour in the oven at about 160 degrees. I'm just finishing them off now. A couple of nasturtium leaves. I love the flavour of nasturtium leaves, but one of the things I love about nasturtium leaves is you're going to be able to find them pretty much all year round. Just drizzle with a little bit of olive oil to finish, put some salt on top, and they're ready to go. So a couple of great recipes today, finishing off with the vegetarian one and starting with the second best lobster sandwich or lobster roll that you're ever going to have. That's it for us in the studio here. The next few episodes, or the next big chunk of episodes we've left off the map, we're going to be out and about on the East Coast and in at the restaurant's kitchen. So say goodbye to our studio until next season.